Hello and welcome to the And Now What podcast with me, Matty Taylor. Join me as I discover how to navigate life and careers in the 21st century. Hello everyone and thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the And Now What podcast, which, as you all know, is the first episode after our rebrand. So just to give you guys some context, basically having had a few conversations with people, it seems that the idea of a career doesn't really resonate, and instead the notion of like, oh my god, and now what do I do with my life after you come out of school or uni or really any stage of your life resonates a lot more with people. So this episode is really to highlight the fact that you can find out what you want to do with your life, what you're interested in, and what you want your purpose to be in other areas of your life aside from your career. So we talked to Angie Rose, and she takes us through what she studied at school and at uni, and as well what charity work and interests and hobbies she got involved in. And then she also talks to us about her traveling. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. And if you are keen to hear more, make sure to subscribe to find out when all our latest episodes will be released. Very excited to have you on the show. As is my new tradition, I am going to start off with 20 questions in 2 minutes.
Whoa, okay, this is fun. It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Hit me.
3, 2, 1. Where were you born?
Epsom, UK.
Where did you go to school?
The Warwick in Red Hill, Surrey.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A fairy queen.
Oh, lovely.
That's the most honest answer. I still do, really, but
it's true.
Well, so.
It came true.
Yeah, 100%.
What's been your favourite job?
Do you know what? Working with children. I loved it. It's brilliant fun. The kids come out with the funniest things, and they always keep you on your toes. You have to be so quick thinking and quick mouthed as well.
What was the last song you were listening to?
Probably some like Beyonce empowerment. Get me hyped. Morning
or evening?
Oh, probably morning.
Okay. What is your favourite country you've travelled to?
Brazil.
What's your biggest fear?
General, but failure.
What's your favourite book?
There's 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini and The Help, but I can't remember who wrote that.
Worst job?
Probably GIS mapping. It sounds really cool, but sitting on a computer screen doing the same thing every single day is so dull.
Describe your personality in 3 words.
Energetic, adventurous, and honest.
I like it. World problem you'd want to solve?
Oh, like a real world problem.
As a fairy queen?
Yeah, all forms of human trafficking.
Nice. Tell me an embarrassing moment at work.
At work? Oh, can we pass that one? Come back.
Okay.
An embarrassing moment.
All was good. Okay, dancing or singing?
Dancing.
Give me the name of someone who really inspires you.
Michelle Obama. Where
will I find you Friday evening?
Dancing, outside, inside, with friends, just not in the house.
Yeah. Love or money?
Love.
What makes you the happiest?
Picnics in the sun with strawberries with my friends. Love that.
Lovely. What is your dream job?
I don't know specifically, but something empowering women where they don't have so much of a voice, in a sustainable kind of program, so educating them and future generations, whilst giving them the tools to do it themselves. Education.
Nice. Sweets or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Okay. And then the question you skipped, which
was... the most embarrassing time at work.
Yeah.
Thing is, I don't get very embarrassed easily. I tend to embarrass other people. I find it quite fun. I genuinely can't think of when at the time I was embarrassed. Probably falling over or something, but even that's proper funny. So.
That's
Sorry.
okay. No, that's good. That's good. Well, we were definitely over 2 minutes, but YOLO. I think
Good.
it's more important to find out about you than stick to a time. As Boris Johnson would say, data not dates, but in this case, info not time. Well, so now we know everything about you. To celebrate the rebrand of the
Mm.
podcast, essentially what I've been doing myself is having conversations with people and realize that this idea of a career is very narrow, and what resonates more is the idea of not knowing what you want to do with your life, and career being
Yeah.
one tiny aspect of that. And I
Yeah.
thought, who better to celebrate this idea of leading a well-rounded, fulfilling life
Oh,
than
stop.
you? Than you.
Oh,
Basically, for this episode, what I would love to do is to talk about your career, but also to talk about other things outside of work that are important to you, and also to how you think people should be living their lives and finding their way in the world.
yeah. Yeah.
My random question to start with is, how has your family influenced who you are today and shape what you wanted to do with your life?
Love that. Who I am entirely. I mean, nurture is one of the fundamental things that makes you who you are. I fully believe that. From my mum, very much learn to follow your own path and do what you want, because you are the person that should really know yourself best. She always wanted to be a nurse, despite her parents' disapproval and her two siblings going to Oxford University. She just knew that she didn't want to go into academia. She wasn't for it. And she followed that path. She made sure that it happened. That has always kind of shone out to me, and it's made me want to do that too. And it's kind of inspired me to, not that I have her disapproval of anything, because she also wants to champion whatever we do because she went through that experience. And I think from that, she's a very bold person. So I've definitely got her bold attitude and I guess demeanor, but I like to think I put it in a more modern way. I'm more adaptable in certain situations than she perhaps is. And my dad, his kindness and his, although I don't think he's very funny, he has a sense of humor. And I also like to think I have a relatively good sense of humor. I think, yeah, we pick different things from our parents. Obviously, they've got their flaws too, and I picked up, I wouldn't say their flaws, but I noticed them, and I know that I perhaps don't want to pick them up and adapt that into my lifestyle or who I am as a person. So they're quite a good, emblem in that way as well, because you're like working towards them for the good and the bad. So yeah, they both shaped me definitely as a person. And maybe what I want to do as well, because mum did the nursing, I've always been quite charitable and into events and altruistic in my beliefs. So yeah, I think they've both very much had an impact on me.
I'd like to talk a bit more about the work you do in charity, because you've done a lot of
Okay.
side projects, I know, in the past.
Yes.
I think it'd be interesting for everyone just to have a quick overview of how you started to get involved in charity work and how that's taken shape.
Sure. I think side projects is definitely the way to put it. Yeah, being brought up with my mum, I never really questioned it. It was just every Christmas, her bedroom was genuinely filled with toys that she'd managed to get hold of from different businesses and organizations, because she had these contacts, or she went into a shop and was like, I'm doing a collection for those less fortunate. Can you donate anything? And she was just such a whiz at networking and getting what she wanted for other people who were in need. And I think that is a good reason to do it, obviously. And I was just like, yeah, this is what we do every Christmas. So that became how I got involved with the shoebox appeal. So I launched that at my school. That became an annual thing every year, collected over like 200-300 shoeboxes a year.
Tell us a bit more about
Oh,
what the
sorry.
shoebox is.
Yeah, so it's literally a shoebox. You wrap it in Christmas paper and then fill it with all bits and bobs that are fun for children. It can be hygiene items, toys, notepads, stationery, school supplies, just a nice little something that they can get at Christmas that they wouldn't get at all otherwise. So that was mum's Christmas project that then I kind of adapted and took into the school. Then I became a community ambassador at school, and I did fundraisers just for different charities. I started a group as well. Rotary, they have a children's version, or a student's version should say, is called Interact. So I launched that. We did fundraisers, we had events. So that was really good fun. And I've always kind of dipped my toes into volunteering in some capacity, because I don't know any different. You get so much from giving back. And one of my favorite quotes is, "We rise by lifting others." And it's so true, because the return you see and receive from giving something, it can be as simple as like a cup of tea to someone else. It's like a chain almost. They'll pass that on, and it kind of goes on. You've got this shared sense of, it's like a mini community almost. I think we all have so much in common, and I think it's often seen the other way around, because it's easier to spot differences. And if we just share a little bit of kindness, it goes a long way.
Yeah. How do you think doing the charity work when you're at school has influenced you later on in the endeavours that you've been pursuing?
It's funny, because I always just saw it as an interest or a way to get stuff done. Like, I love action. I love taking leadership and getting people involved as well. I love group projects, and that was an easy way for me to do it alongside studies. And then a teacher asked me, one of my favorite teachers, he said, "So you're going to go into charity after university then?" I was like, "No, what makes you think that?" He was like, "What do you mean? All the work you do?" And I was like, "I guess so. I just didn't know it could be a job. It's just something I enjoy. It's just an interest. I want a proper job though. I don't want to do that." And then after that, and I still obviously reflect on that time so much. Well, of course it can be a proper job. Anything is a proper job. I mean, it's just what you deem as proper or successful. And it's something I still want to do. I think for me, I struggle with the boundaries of charity in terms of it being a business, or how charitable it is, and the transparency of them, but also it's major competitive, and you can still just do as many amazing things for charity but not work for them. And I think that's where you have to choose where you want to channel your attention.
Yeah,
I hope
nice.
that's answered it.
Yeah, no, definitely, really well. So let's focus a bit more on school. What were you interested in school? And when you're at school, what were you kind of thinking about life in the future? Had you been thinking about it at all, or yeah?
I did enjoy geography. I loved it. Equally theatre, but I knew it was an interest. I also considered law. I did law, and I was like, "You know what, that's just silly. I can't do law. It's just too much for me." I find it interesting, but that's kind of where it stops.
Yeah, sorry, I just think that's a really good point, is sometimes knowing the balance between what's actually an interest and what you could do for a career. And that can
Yeah,
be a really difficult thing to sometimes weigh up. So it's cool that you're already thinking this.
I think that's a good point also, because when you are choosing your subjects, you are subliminally choosing your career path a little bit. I mean, you can change nowadays. That is the beauty. You can study English, then become a hairdresser. But like, you are subconsciously lining yourself up for all that. And I guess that's what I did with geography, because I loved it. And it was so diverse. And I just continued to follow that path. And it became really important to me. And I realized how relevant it was around the world, and how kind of tied in with my belief systems, as in geopolitical importance, or sustainability, or the environment. It just ties into so many things that are around us, inescapably so. I still read up on so many topics now, just out of genuine interest, and I try to expand my knowledge so much. And I always somehow come back to climate change and other things. I'm like, Ange, you need to broaden your mind, Palace.
I know it can be tricky though. If you do find something that you're really interested in, it's like a magnet. You just can't help but be attracted to it, for sure. So after your A levels, you took a gap year. Tell us a bit more about your gap year.
For sure. So I knew I wanted to do a gap year after year 11, because our school was really fortunate enough to have a World Challenge kind of program where we could fundraise £3,000 to go to Kenya. My mind was open in all the cliche ways when I went to Kenya, and I just had the best time. And I thought, I want to do more of this. I want to go explore, but on my own terms, in my own way. So in my A-level geography class, my teacher said, the Royal Geographical Society are giving out scholarships to geography students if they want to go on a gap year. I was like, what? Sorry, what now? Sign me up. So I filled out the application. My teacher also had to fill out one for me. Got called, I think within a week. It was crazy fast. And I went for an interview at the Royal Geographical Society. I charmed them and I got the
Yeah, you
scholarship.
did.
They gave us a grant of, I'm gonna say it, £4,000.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It was like such a great opportunity. Like, why wouldn't you take it? And I just had to present to them and fill out everything I was going to do, let them know. I had a mentor. I presented at the end of my gap year what I did and what I learned and everything. So then on my gap year, I went to Tanzania, Peru on my own, and then I went to Morocco and interrailing. I went to literally like the most stereotypical places a gap year person does, and I've been bullied about it ever since, but I have no regrets. I like to do hiking when I go abroad, so I went hiking. I did voluntary work and I did like the sightseeing stuff. I had a brilliant time, and I was 18, 19, going to these places halfway across the world, just living my best life. And I think it definitely sparked something in me that made me want to do work that involves something touching base worldwide with different people and seeing and making the change on the ground.
Yeah, I think there's a really important distinction between being able to work in an office and implement change from a high level, but not really understand necessarily what's going on the ground and seeing that change.
It's going outside of the normality that you realize what you do like, what you don't like, and what you're good at, and equally what you're not. But if you are continuing to follow this path or this set out already trodden journey, like, you're not going to know any different. And how do you know that you don't like it, or you're not going to be good at it, or equally the other way around?
Yeah. So would you recommend a gap year as something that people do after school, do you think?
I think either before or after uni is very valuable, if you go to university, of course, because I was like, I'm learning so much. And obviously I was, because I was in such, many unknown environments, completely on my own. Obviously I met people, but you have to rely on yourself a lot more. You are your own boss. And I think you always are your own boss of your life, and you should be. If you're not playing the main part, you need to sort it out. My gap year taught me independence in such a special way, and it showed me it's always my choice. Obviously it's not always that easy at all, but I can choose what direction I go in, always. And I think typically uni is the one that most people know to be the next one after school. But because I did it differently as well, it kind of highlighted to me, well, no, I can do what I want rather than what everyone assumes I want, or what the government thinks I should do, or my schoolmates. I think it's important to question things, and I think that's what it made me do a lot more.
I'm going to give you the opportunity, which I'm sure loads of people have derided you for doing in the past, but I'm going to give you the space to share a story that you think, do you have like a moment that really sticks out with you, that opened your mind or made you stop and think in your tracks?
I was walking up Mount Kilimanjaro. I did it on my own, and my guide, you're meant to have a guide who leads the way. He was like, just go ahead, I'll catch up. And in my head, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's meant to be the other way around. I'm supposed to be catching up with you. Anyway, I went up the mountain and was just walking, following the path. I mean, it's not that difficult to do, but I thought I'd be put in a group of people, I'd be talking to lots of people, making friends from the get-go. I was just on my own, treading up this path. I was like, what have I done? Why am I doing this? And then these two Canadian guys, they're like, does anyone speak English here? I was like, I do, hi. And they became my best friends. They were these two 40-year-old men for the whole week, and they were the best thing ever. They were so nice. But the best thing was when the summit, you wake up at midnight and then you hike up at night. So it's pitch black, but we had the full moon and we didn't need head torches, which was just incredible. So we walked up the summit and we got there at sunrise. I will never forget. It's just so, so beautiful. It was covered in snow and the sun was shining. I'm getting emotional talking about it, because I earned that. I walked the highest mountain, the highest peak in Africa on my own, and I met these cool people and had the best time. because I let that happen. I mean, I could have been miserable and upset if I was just going on my own. I could have ignored those Canadians easily, actually, to be honest, or I could have been too shy to talk to them. I was like, and then I carried on walking. I could have quit at any time. I think that was just amazing. And I turned it into something really fun at the top as well, because it's hard. It's so steep and you can't see fully where you're going. So you're just looking down uphill constantly for 6-7 hours. So that was a spellbinding, I want to say. I never use that word. It's a great word.
Yeah.
Kind of moment. And it felt like it's one of those when you're connected with nature, and it just felt amazing and nothing else matters.
It's so easy to forget that nature exists, and that's a really dumb thing to say, but when you get an opportunity to be in something with like astounding natural beauty, it really makes you stop and feel like a bit more connected. And I can imagine that definitely fuels your passion for the climate crisis and
Yes,
everything like that. And then
massively.
and then the other thing is you always like read quotes on Instagram, which is all about like you got to work for it to appreciate it, or like you got to climb the mountain to appreciate the top kind of thing. But it's so true.
It feels deserved. I mean, if you do something like a task and you know you put minimal effort in, you feel guilty somehow, or you don't deserve it because it wasn't your best work and you didn't put as much energy into it. But when you have and you've done well, it's like a weight off your shoulders, because
Yeah.
you're proud of what you did and it worked out for the best. And it's just the best feeling. You're like, oh, I did that. And it's even better.
Yeah, no, definitely. So then you went to uni.
I did.
Exciting. So tell us
I
more
was.
about what you studied, where did you go, what did you do in your spare time, how grim was your housing?
It was a BSc in geography, but it was hybrid physical and human geography. I went to Swansea University on the Gower Coast in South Wales, which is just stunning. It literally had everything. Swansea was perfect for me in so many ways, in that it was academic, but they also prioritised a high functioning social life. And there were so many activities to get involved in outdoors, because it has such a beautiful coastline and it's near, Brecon Beacons. And then my course was brilliant. I met loads of great people on my course as well. I lived with 18 people in first year. Interesting to say the least. No, it's good fun. There was always people around, but it was a lot. I was very active in the kayaking society and was on committee in my second and third year as social sec and president.
Oi, oi.
Little shout out to myself. Yeah, I just loved it. It was really nice having an interest outside of my studies, and it was something I'd never done before. I hadn't kayaked before university, so it was all really novel and exciting. I mean, it's a crazy scary sport, and it's very niche, and you have a really tight group of people involved in it because it does only appeal to a certain type of person. And getting involved in the committee was, I think that's something to draw on to with my charity work. I realised very early on I like leadership roles. I like being active in committees and decision making. And I joined as social sec and then jumped up to president because I wanted a say. I wanted to improve and better the club, and I brought in my charity side to it as well. We did fundraising, and we got sponsorship. We had a business partnership, and by being on committee, you're exposed to so much, and it's like the business side too. I find quite exciting, so I loved it. It wasn't always easy. It was very difficult, but it was great fun.
Yeah, you can definitely build skills in ways outside just being in your, say, traditional studies or even just in an office, right? Like it's great, as you say, to be able to have decision-making roles and to foster those skills and learn and develop, because then you kind of get a better picture of what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy.
Absolutely. They all mirror each other in the skill set, really. I mean, I use my presidency so often as an example of a lot of skills I've gained, and they can be used in so many areas and places, whether it's just communication with different types of people or financial database systems.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about kind of who you were going into uni and who you were coming out. Deep question of the day.
That's fun. Going in, I was this, not that I've changed that much, but I'm super positive, like, oh, I know everything. I've traveled the world. I didn't flaunt it at all. I wouldn't be that person because I knew that you would get eaten alive. And I was just like ready for anything. And because I'd done all this like typically difficult throwing yourself into it stuff, I was like, how hard can uni be? So I threw myself into it. And I think I'd never been in such a social environment before, and I just reveled in it. I loved it. And I think first year was the chance to do that. But I also had to catch up in terms of I'd had a break from studying for a year, and it's really hard to get back into it. I had my fun in first term, and then I did have to remind myself that I was also there to study. I think the traveling, I have to say, did relax me a lot. It made me realize that I'm such a generalist as a person. I don't specialize in any one skill or any one topic or interest, which is a blessing and a curse. But at uni, again, it was highlighted to me. So I'm really grateful that I was at Swansea, like I said, because it had so many things I could get involved in. And I think with each year, I got more invested and I enjoyed the modules more and more because there was more choice. And with that being on committee each year, I became more committed, I'd say, to what I was interested in, what I thought was worth fighting for, learning how and when to pick my battles and where I fitted in best with certain people and who my real people were, because I feel like that's really important. Because at school, you're with the same people for about 5 years, typically, if you stay at the same school. Then at university, you're exposed to this massive pool of people from all walks of life, and you kind of really have to try out different types of people, I guess that's the right way to put it. So I think that was important, and I learned that a lot because I've got such amazing friends from university. So yeah, I just grew up a lot, I think.
I think the people skills is a really big one because, as you say, you're thrown into a new environment where you're with people who you haven't known before, and it's kind of working out who you get on with, and maybe coming across personalities you have not met before, for better or for worse.
Yes.
And uni is definitely for all of about like finding out like who you get on with and who you don't and who you are as a result. How does being a generalist show up in the decisions you make in your life?
I just, in terms of job seeking, I guess, like I know I don't want to do something really specific or very much research based or data or something, just one thing. I like lots of different responsibilities or working across different teams, perhaps. So it's a collaborative position. I guess interests as well. I like dipping my toes into different hobbies. That's, I think, why I did kayaking. It was something new and exciting. It helps me realize, actually, by not being a specialist, that I don't need to be really good. It allows me to sit in being okay at lots of things. And actually, that releases a lot of pressure. I mean, I won't lie, of course, I want to be really good at everything. Who doesn't? But it means that I can give lots of things a go and say, oh, yeah, I'm a dancer. Yeah, I did martial arts and I know a bit of everything. And actually, that's quite powerful and useful. It means I try different things because I do love to try different things. I like to give it a go. I think that is the ethos because you don't know until you've tried it as well. And I think you learn so much from failing at something, not being so good at something, and how you cope with it. I laugh at myself so often. Well, mostly you have to. Secondly, I'm hilarious. Thirdly, it's just a good way of dealing with it, and then you get over it because you've laughed at yourself and you can get better. Like yoga, you don't have to be good at it. You just have to turn up and breathe. You don't have to be a professional.
Yeah, I love it. At the end of uni, how did you get a job and what job was that?
Arguably, I left it quite late to apply, but I just wanted to focus on my studies rather than adding the pressure as well of finding a job. And then I moved just outside of London. I put my CV on lots of recruitment sites, and someone got in contact with me actually and had obviously pulled data from my CV, and it was my experience in GIS mapping. So I got involved in that on a 6-month contract. It aligned very well with one of my modules in my degree, and it did the trick for 6 months. There was no development progression. It was very simple mapping using different types of data like satellite imagery, ordnance survey maps, It was okay, but it didn't challenge me. I like to be challenged, and it doesn't use my personality. And I mean, you can't put your personality on a map. That it needs to be accurate. I was very stunted in it, I would say.
Yeah, was it easy for you to recognize that you were stunted and to do something
I
about it?
was
Okay.
I was pretty unhappy. I mean, the thing that kept me going was that they hired in teams of 10 at a time, and we were quite close, and you could socialize in the office quite nicely, but it's not enough to keep me at a job. I need the job itself to be fulfilling. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, I'm not very good.
Yeah, it's difficult to invest in something when you're not enjoying it and get yourself motivated, for sure.
Yeah, very much. I'm not someone who works to live. I would like to enjoy most of my job. So it's a 6-month contract anyway, which is quite well timed. And then I applied for a sales job in London, which was doing sales and marketing for new business. Didn't really know what I got myself into until it kind of got 3 months in. And then it was like cold calling, content-based marketing on LinkedIn, emails. They hired 2 of us graduates, and they just didn't really know what to do with us. They had this big plan, big fancy scheme, but they didn't focus on the details and how to actually get us to really support that initiative. So we were kind of lost in all of it, and I wasn't really putting my all into it because I didn't believe in it. I didn't enjoy it. So I tried it for a year, and I thought that was substantial enough. And then I thought, I need a break now for myself. I need to do something that I really enjoy, and that's traveling. So that's what I did.
There's so much pressure when you come out of uni that the first job you have to get either has to be perfect, or
Yeah.
there's this kind of assumption that once you're in a job, you're in it for life. The fact that you were able to put yourself first and recognize that I need a break, my jobs haven't made me happy, and I need to be re-energized. Like sometimes it takes a lot of self-awareness and almost like a helicopter view of yourself to be able to do that. It's that balance of, do you work to live or do you live to work? And
Yeah.
being able to think, my life isn't just about a career, and actually to be fulfilled, like traveling is something I recognize that is really important to me, and I want to dedicate real time to traveling and doing what I love. I think that's really cool. So you realized that you weren't having the best of fun in your job, and then you decided to go traveling.
I wanted to go to South America because I'd wanted to do that for so long, because I went to Peru and I just thought I wanted to do more of it. But I decided I wasn't ready to do South America because truthfully, I broke up with my boyfriend, left my job and my house all on the same day. So I needed like my own kind of break, but not full on the other side of the world. So I wanted to ease into the traveling again. I thought I would volunteer so that I wouldn't spend too much money on this trip, so that I could spend more on my South America one. That was still at the back of my mind as the priority. So I went to Norway volunteering at a hostel, and I couldn't have done any better. It was incredible. I volunteered as a social volunteer, but it's not the typical like going out drinking nightclubs. It was hiking. I literally hiked every day with guests, and I did that for a month and a half. And then I went to Montenegro and I did the same thing. Volunteered. It was more in the hostel space, so like the maintenance of the hostel and the admin and cooking, because we did food as well for them. And then did some festivals. When I came back again, I volunteered because I'm very conscious. Obviously, I am in a great place of privilege that I can stay at my family home, but I don't want to spend money where it can be avoided. So that's why I did volunteer in these countries. That's why I volunteered at festivals, because I want to have fun, but on a budget. And then I did get a job for Christmas as a waitress, just to pay my way for being at home. And then I did go to South America after Christmas for 3 months. COVID cut it short.
Oh. To kind of then round off the interview, I want to ask you a couple of follow-up questions, and I have prepped you for 2, but actually I've thought of another one as well, so I might be a bit cheeky and ask you.
Do it.
Okay. What did you want to be when you were younger, and how has that influenced who you want to be today?
When we're little, we're all asked what we want to be when we're older, and it immediately directs us to this focus of one job that we're meant to be, when actually you can be a whole host of things at one time, and also you can have a forever evolving career, and you can do many different things over your whole life, and you don't need your whole focus or interest to be in your career. You can have lots of different interests and focus. So I think that's a really bad thing that we do to children. It's immediately drilling into them that they need to think of an answer to that question, because that's what you do when you ask a question, but also it needs to be the right answer. But we hardly know any of the jobs that are out there. We just answer the stereotypical ones, the ones that are broadcasted the most. It's going to be the wrong answer. The kids shouldn't know what they're going to be when they grow up. They should be let to explore and figure it out along the way, I think, is the best thing. Stop asking people, what do you want to be when you're older? But I used to want to be a fairy, and do you know what? That's given me absolutely no direction, and that's perfect, because I'm almost completely content with having no direction. Obviously, I would prefer to have some kind, but you know what? We're all making it up as we go along. I don't think that we need to have this one idea of what we should be, because we don't really know about the jobs that are out there.
Because we'd always ask this question to each other, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you'd always say to me, Matty, my job doesn't exist yet. And I'd be like, yeah.
It is true. I bet it's still true for both of us, because we
Yeah.
are evolving our jobs, and we're having more than one. I mean, this podcast is an example of it, right?
Yeah.
You're doing lots of different things, and I think that is the future and the way it should be.
Yes.
Imagine doing one thing all day, every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I could not do it. Okay,
No.
that was a spontaneous question I've asked. The other question that I was going to ask, how do your values show up in how you live your life?
The main one that comes to mind is caring. I think you have to care for others and yourself. And self-love has been circulating a lot recently, the past 2 years, I'd say, on social media. And while it's a phase, I think it is so true. And I think you have to look after yourself in order to have energy to give to others, and spend your time wisely in the things you do, because what matters at the end of the day is your life. Like I said earlier, you're the main character. If you're not having fun and the plot isn't going the way you wanted it to go, you have to take charge, be brave, and direct it where you want to go. And I think brave was the other one, actually. I like to be brave and take risks, push myself, because I admire people that do that. So I have to be the person with those qualities to be like them.
Yeah, I like your definition of care, because it's a lot wider than I think the narrow definitions you see on Instagram, which is more focused on like, make yourself a cup of tea if you're sad, and that's justified. But I like that your definition of care includes the perception of make sure you're happy in your life as well, because that is a very important fundamental form of care. And definitely with your definition of brave, actually, my manager's manager said this to me today, coincidentally, which is always assume your remit and responsibility is bigger than it actually is, because it's only once you start acting outside your remit that you will take on more, and for people to believe that you are the right person to take on more. So you've got to be your biggest advocate, and you've got to put yourself out there.
Massively. You have to champion yourself. You have to be the one waving your own flag, because you can't rely on other people. As much as they'll be your supporters, they're going to be there for you 100%, whereas you are.
Yeah.
You got no choice. Like, you have to support yourself. And of course it requires energy, but you are the person in charge of how you get your energy, where it comes from. So channel it the right ways for you.
Definitely. And then my final question is, what does success mean to you, Ange?
Success to me actually is a horrible word. It's so overused and it's been diluted. But no. That's exactly why, though, isn't it? Because it's like passion. It's just overused, but it's lost its meaning because people use it so often. Yeah, like, come on, people. We have such a great big dictionary. Honestly, success to me is, it's just going to be so hippy dippy, but it is happiness. For me, it is about sharing. I love being with other people, and having it together, because it does feel so much better when you're sharing that happiness with other people. Having achieved something too, something great, something you've worked towards as well, when you put the effort in. I think that's another thing too. We see success as this big monumental thing, when actually it could be baking a cake or just writing a paragraph in your journal. Like, I've done something successful today because I've made an effort and I've made a choice to do something towards something positive. I think that's what it is. It's making actionable steps towards a better, happier me. And that's always changing. It's always going to be chasing, but we love a good chase. Success almost puts a landmark on it too. It's like, that's a stamp, that's done. But we don't like that. As soon as we finish something, we want to continue doing something else. We're kind of relieved that it's over, but we're like, what next? I want to keep working. I'm hyped now. That was great. It's a feeling, I think, success as well. It's more than just a something. It's something within you.
And I'm going to infer something, and I might do it incorrectly. So you can just tell me to shut up if I've done it wrong. That feeling of success and even that action of success doesn't necessarily always have to be for you. You know, if you enjoy caring for other people, then it could be your friend was sad and you made time to phone them and make sure they were okay. And that could be your definition of success.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even if it wasn't any part of you and you just heard that they did well or something happened for them, it's still a success. It's not potentially your success, but it's your defined version of success because you resonate with it in a positive way. And I think that's where you share it as well. You're right. Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Ange. Obviously, I really enjoy talking to you. I think the important thing that you've said is that, like, life just isn't about careers. It's about so much more.
For me, my interests have always been what's pushed me along and kept me positive and kept me happy, and that's why I do them, because they are what makes me feel fulfilled.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of the And Now What podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe to hear from all our latest guests and episodes. To get in touch, you'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the handle And Now What. Until next time, everybody.